Hey, welcome to the tutorial. Today we're going to be showing you how to use the ACRE 343 radio and the ACRE 148 radio in ArmA 2. First thing you're going to want to do is come to one of these radio crates, go to your gear, and you'll notice that there are a variety of radios. In the 86, we don't use the 119, we don't use the 152, and only RTOs, pilots, maybe SQLs possibly would use the 117 Foxtrot. Today we'll be going over the analog radio, which is the 343, and the two digital 148 radios. I'll go ahead and show you the 343. I already spawned with one, so I probably shouldn't have taken one, but I can just drop that. You're going to click Control, Shift, X. That's Control, Shift, and X at the same time. So you just hold down Control, then start holding down Shift, then start holding down X, if none of you have ever done that before. And then you'll notice that it brings up the GUI, which is Graphic User Interface, and you got a left knob at the very top here, and a right knob. The left knob, you can click right and left. Right will turn it the opposite direction. Left will turn it the opposite direction. That's how it works. The volume is the other knob. Same thing. Click right, turns the knob to the left. Click left click mouse, and turns the knob to the right. Pretty simple. Evens are in dots, odds are written. Just to save space. You can click Escape or Control Shift X again to bring it down. Gear. Gonna go right here. I'm gonna go ahead and pick up a 148 UHF. You can take up a UHF or a VHF. They're essentially the same radio. The big difference is that ultra high frequency, which is the UHF, will work typically better on hilly and more rough terrain. VHF will work typically better on more flat terrain. But if there's a mountain between you and your contact, you're not getting through with either radio. So, in essence, doesn't really make that big of a difference, but in theory, there is a difference. First thing I'm going to do is click Control Shift A to cycle my radios. I can click Control Shift S to cycle to the right, Control Shift A to cycle to the left. I only have two radios right now, so that doesn't really matter. I'm going to click Control Shift X to bring it back up. Here's a pretty standard interface. You got our antenna at the very top right. I believe that's an antenna. Volume is in the middle, right there. I can go ahead and adjust that as I want to. I got my channel knob right here. See, it has many more channels. It goes to 100 channels. 343 only went to 16. You can also use it right here for the channels. Notice it also has a frequency associated with it. The most important thing about this radio is that if you click Mode and then click it again, you'll see that there's a current and new power. Click the down, put the new to 5000, click the ENT for enter, and you're all set up. Current and new power, 5,000. So that means 5,000 meters. This radio can reach out to 5 kilometers. I believe the 343 can only do 500 meters max. This one obviously reaches a lot farther. Now the important thing about the 148 is that it can communicate with the 117, the 152, and the other radios, the other radios in ACRE. The 343, on the other hand, can only communicate with other 343 radios, which makes it pretty important when you're operating on a fire team level. You could have a rifleman and an AR both talking on the 343, but if you're operating on a squad level and you have a 148, you know that everyone below you is not chiming in on comms. You're just having FTLs and the SQL talk over that 148. But the 343, you know you're just talking to other fire team members. Hope that all makes sense. I'm going to give you a little extra information just to kind of show my point here. I'm going to take out the backpack radio and I'm going to show you that the frequency is the same. So 36.625, and that's 36.625. Both got our frequencies there. These two radios can communicate with each other. So you'd have two fire team leaders talking on those. 343, you can't have a 343 talk to a 148. I'll go ahead and show you as a last mark. Click 8, click ENT, cycle to power, click ENT again. Keep on clicking that left arrow until you get to 20,000, 20 kilometers, and that is your 117 Foxtrot. Now, just a couple tips. I know you could have probably ended the video by now, but if you're still sticking around, couple of tips for radio comms. Make sure you say over when you want a response on the other end. Make sure you say out if you're done with the conversation. So a lot of people don't use those correctly. If you're talking back and forth with someone and you say over at the end of the transmission, that means that you want a response. You want them to say copy that. If you say out, that means you don't want a response. You don't want them to chime in on the radio again. Wilco means will comply. Roger is typically synonymous with over. Copy is also typically synonymous with those if you use it at the end of a sentence. Another quick tip about radios. If you have one person talking on the radio and he's sending a transmission, let's say over the, I'm going to cycle to the 148 so I can show you. We got the 148 on this frequency, and let's say I'm hearing someone talk over this 148, and then another person decides to talk. Another person decides to transmit over someone's transmission. So the person who interrupts, what's going to happen is you're going to have this one person talking, then he's going to get cut off, and the person who interrupted is going to be the only person you hear. And then when the person who interrupted cuts out, it'll go back to the person who was originally talking. So the person who was originally transmitting will never know that he was cut off, and he will never know that no one else got his message, because he can't hear who's transmitting over him. Hope that all makes sense. Moral of the story is, don't interrupt people on the radio. That's why you use break. If I wanted to say he is bearing 50, break, and then start transmitting again at the firehouse, over. You wouldn't want to say, if you had something urgent to say, you wouldn't interrupt him when he says break. You'd interrupt him when he says over, because that means he's done with the transmission. Hope that all makes sense. I gave you a little bit too much information there for the purpose of this video, but I hope you all find it useful. Thank you.